Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Shikamaru Shinden, a cloud dancing in forlorn falling petals. Chapter 2. Naruto was speechless as he glared at the reports sitting on his desk. Hands still in his pockets, Shikamaru stared at his friend frozen before the papers he himself had written up. Is the land of Earth really? This is reality right here. If you really think about it, it's way easier to deal with an outsider enemy. The shinobi from different villages can pull together to fight an enemy like that. But real war's not so simple as all that. Now the enemy are ninja just like us, from another village. Countries and villages have their own individual motives. The idea that all villages would cooperate is at best idealistic. Naruto gritted his teeth. He might have been the purest person Shikamaru knew. Naruto believed utterly in people's ability to come together and understand one another. To his credit, Naruto's lofty goodwill had indeed changed a great many people. He had even bridged the gap with his good friend, who had stepped off the path and become a rogue ninja, and gotten him to choose the path of living his comrades once more. There was no way that this Naruto would be able to quietly accept what Shikamaru was saying. But Shikamaru needed Naruto to understand reality. People couldn't live on ideals alone. Kuratsuchi and the land of Earth had their own agendas. Why would they go invading another country now? Naruto muttered. If they're having a hard time, they could just discuss it with the other nations. And if the daimyo can't make something work, Kuratsuchi could talk to us at a meeting of the 5 Kages. If they don't have any good land, a country that can get plenty of food could help them out. I mean, that's the whole point of the meetings. That's the point of the alliance. Shikamaru felt the same way. The power of the alliance of the hidden villages of the 5 great nations rippled out to all the mid-sized and small nations on the continent now. If the alliance raised its voice, the ninja of the smaller hidden villages wouldn't be able to ignore their call. The Foundation was there to discuss and resolve any issue that arose. And yet the land of Earth had decided on an attack on the land of flowers and was trying to make the village of Uegakure bend to its will. Human fragility and emotion were clearly intervening in a way that was unfathomable with logic alone. This is what Old Man Inoki said, Shikamaru started, and Naruto lifted his face. He said the world might be at peace, but a ninja's a ninja. A ninja's a ninja, Shikamaru nodded silently. If they just sat back and watched, the land of Earth would invade, and the calm and peaceful life of the land of flowers would be destroyed by the ninja of Uegakure. In which case, the land of lightning would intervene, given its many years of alliance with the land of flowers. So naturally, Kimagakure would also get involved in the struggle. If Chojuro's Kirigakure ninja added their might to Uegakure's, then the chaos would be further accelerated. And it wasn't as though Konohagakure and Tsunagakure would stand by silently. They might all be dragged into a fight that could swallow the continent. The 5th Great Ninja War. The unpleasant words flitted through his mind. If they were once again plunged into a great war, they wouldn't be able to bring it to an end the way they had the last time. There was no external enemy to unite them. Everything would collapse. Led by the daimyo, the 5 great nations would withdraw into the shells of their own countries, and the ninja of the hidden villages would be forced onto a path of blood, mindlessly felling ninja from other villages. And this unproductive fighting would continue for all eternity. Shikamaru, the hero who had ended the Great War, looked up, his eyes full of sadness. Whatever else we do, we have to stop this war. Our kids don't know real war. For them, this peaceful village is the world of the ninja. Old Man Inoki's ninja and what Boruto and the kids think a ninja is are two fundamentally different things. I don't want those kids to have to go through everything we experienced. The Hokage closed his eyes. What did he see on the backs of his eyelids now? Hyuga Neji? Uchiha Itachi? So many ninja had been lost in the fierce fighting. The phantoms that rose up in the back of Shikamaru's own mind were his father and master. The unhealed wounds that he had sealed away deep in his heart throbbed. He pulled a cigarette from his pocket and put it into his lips. There was no smoking in here, so he just held it in his mouth. He could feel his master close to him when he did. That man was always smoking. His shoulders were never tensed up around his ears. He'd given the grumbling Shikamaru the friendly push he needed. "What should we do?" he asked Naruto, wedging the unlit cigarette between his index and middle fingers. "We gotta stop Kuratsuchi no matter what." The Hokage's sky-blue eyes shone with the light of resolve. When he held such clarity, Naruto was strong. And with his conviction he took off running. It was Shikamaru's job to forge a path for the Hokage to run on. Naruto had the absurd strength to charge down any road, no matter how rough. But even if he knew where he was going, he didn't necessarily know how to get there. It was up to Shikamaru to draw him a map. If we're going to stop Kuratsuchi, we're gonna have to meet her and talk. Yeah. Naruto nodded emphatically. Shikamaru flicked the tip of his cigarette with his thumb as he spoke. This invasion of the Land of Flowers was decided on by the Land of Earth. Kuratsuchi's not the mastermind here, it's the daimyo of the Land of Earth. She's just cooperating with him. So whatever we say to her, the invasion of the Land of Flowers is still going to go ahead unless we have a word with the Land of Earth's daimyo and get his head on straight. But if Kuratsuchi rethinks this, the Uegakure ninja won't move, Naruto noted. In that case, the Land of Earth won't be able to go ahead with the invasion. I highly doubt that Kuratsuchi has put so little thought into this that she would change her mind because you tell her to. She's got her own line of thinking here. You know as well as I do that she's not the kind of woman to blindly follow the daimyo's orders. Are you saying that Kuratsuchi wants war? Naruto stood up and slammed his hands down on the desk. Shikamaru hadn't seen him this angry in a while. Maintaining his own composure, he said to his overexcited friend, "Not the strangest idea, is it? A ninja who wants to fight." "Oh!" Naruto cried out as though something had just occurred to him. Then he turned to Shikamaru with a curious expression. "What is it?" Shikamaru asked. "Maybe it's like Akatsuki or someone pulling strings behind the scenes. Like, they used a jutsu on Kuratsuchi and the daimyo of the Land of Earth. Akatsuki was the group of rogue ninja that had triggered the previous Great War. They had intended to collect the tailed beasts scattered throughout the 5 hidden villages and use the enormous amounts of chakra they possessed to cast a genjutsu on every person in the world. "Naruto," he said in a forceful tone, rebuking his friend, before calmly continuing, "Kuratsuchi's a talented ninja. She's not going to get caught up in a genjutsu as easily as all that. As for the daimyo, she would have checked into that herself. If someone was pulling the strings behind the scenes, she would have already taken care of them. It's easy to look for the enemy on the outside. It might be more comfortable to turn your eyes from reality like that. But you're the Hokage. This is a problem of country and country, village and village. Don't grab the easy lie of an external enemy to make yourself feel better. You have to face reality squarely and look for a way forward." "Right. You're right. I know you're right." Lifting his face, Naruto nodded slightly. First, Shikamaru started. "A meeting of the 5 Kages." Naruto continued. And then he laughed. He had changed since becoming Hokage. He didn't charge ahead on emotion alone the way he used. 2. He had learned how to figure out a way forward himself. Naruto had turned out to be a great Hokage. Even so, there were still things only Shikamaru could do. Naruto was the shining sun of this village. Shadow always followed a powerful light. Shikamaru was that shadow, created by the Naruto's dazzling Sunday. At any rate, we say we want to talk about Kuratsuchi's motion from last time and meet again, he said, cigarette hanging from his mouth. Then you cut right to the chase and ask her about the Land of Earth. It'll depend on how Kuratsuchi comes at you, but if we get it all out in the open, Darui and Chojuro will be forced to make a choice. It'd be bad if the meeting broke down there. We should probably talk to Gaara again beforehand." "You mean get him on our side?" Naruto asked. Shikamaru shook his head. We're at best in a neutral position. We're not standing with Kuratsuchi or the Land of Flowers and Darui. We asked Gaara to be in the middle too. If Konoha and Suna can hold fast to the center, no one else will be able to make any careless moves. You take care of that then. I'm on it. And with that, Shikamaru had an enormous number of things to do, choosing a messenger to propose the meeting, deciding on a schedule, negotiating with Gaara. He probably wouldn't be able to return home for a while. Hey, Shikamaru. Put that cigarette out. Naruto shouted. I told you I'd get mad. Without realizing it, he had lit the cigarette. Oh, Shikamaru stared at the trail of smoke. What a waste. Okay, leave the rest to me. You're going for a smoke? Shikamaru ran out of the Hokage's office and raced up to the roof. From the moment the 5 Kages gathered, an oppressive air filled the venue. Kuratsuchi, her face grim, Darui, unhappy at having his everyday work interrupted by the urgent meeting, Chojuro, face tight in consideration of the argument that was about to happen, Gaara, taking his seat as calmly as ever, having been informed in advance by Naruto of the Land of Earth's reckless action. And in the center of them all was Naruto, looking intense, like he was about to go into the battle of a lifetime. Naruto started them off. Thanks for coming. I know you're all busy. So you're going to give us your answer then? Kuratsuchi asked immediately, her voice inflectionless but exerting a tremendous pressure. A faint smile on his lips, the Hokage looked at the black-haired Sachikage. Actually, there's something I want to ask you today, Kuratsuchi. Goodness. And what's that? Kuratsuchi replied, feigning innocence, while the corners of her mouth curled up. Naruto put his hands on the table and leaned forward. Is it true that the Land of Earth is planning to invade the Land of Flowers? What? Darui cried out, the color in his sleepy eyes changing. Whoa, Naruto. What did you just say? The Land of Earth is going to invade the Land of Flowers. That's what I said. What is the meaning of this, Kuratsuchi? Darui shouted. Kuratsuchi furrowed her brow, seemingly annoyed, and shook her head from side to side with a sigh. Eyes still firmly trained on Naruto, she spoke slowly. Konoha's always secretly digging up information on the other villages and trying to stand on top. While they scream in shrill voices about peace and bonds, in the shadows, they're using Sasuke and the Umbu and watching vigilantly for their chance to take control of the continent. The sooner the rest of you wake up to this, the better. None of us will be laughing once they've got us pushed past the point of no return while we were lying around with our feet up. I'm telling you, Konoha would never do anything like that. Believe it. You can say whatever you want. Answer my question. Darui interrupted. Is it true the Land of Earth plans to invade the Land of Flowers? Yeah, it is. The Tsuchikage shrugged. Darui's cheeks tightened. Kuratsuchi, what do you even know about the Land of Flowers? They have a long-standing alliance with the Land of Lightning, right? Kuratsuchi replied without looking at Darui. If you attack the Land of Flowers, the ninja of Kimagakure will absolutely come to their aid. And you know what that would mean, right? When the Land of Earth moves, the ninja of the village of Uegakure simply obey. Any enemies that stand in the way will be cleared away, a necessary sacrifice. Are you serious right now? Stupid question. Kuratsuchi sidestepped Darui and looked to Naruto. The disclosure of Konoha's secrets. What's your answer? This is not the time for talking about that. Darui pressed. Kuratsuchi finally looked at him. Could you be quiet a sec? I'm talking to Naruto right now. From where he stood behind Naruto, Shikamaru could almost hear the blood vessels in Darui's head rupturing. The gentle Raikage was carried away by anger and leaped to his feet. If you wish to fight me so badly, we can just do it right here and now. Kuratsuchi lowered her eyes and sighed. And what is you and I fighting here going to do? The Land of Earth's policy isn't going to change if I lose. Naturally, if you lose, I'm not going to start thinking differently all of a sudden. Either way, it's pointless. Just hang on a sec. Naruto shouted. What is this place even for then? This is supposed to be a time when the five Kages come together and discuss things for the sake of peace, isn't it? Please, Darui. Sit down. Kuratsuchi, you too. Let's talk this out. Still glaring at Kuratsuchi, Darui sat down, his body shaking. The black-clad Sachikage stayed where she was, however, and continued to press Naruto. Those of us who went through the Great War know the power you and Sasuke wield. Konoha has 2 ninja with enough strength to wipe out an entire country. Do you really not understand what that means, Naruto? Sasuke and I would never do anything to hurt anyone, Naruto protested. We only use our power against groups like Akatsuki who want to tear down this peace. You gotta believe me. So Konoha intends to enforce order over the entire continent? That Sachikage arched an eyebrow. How is that different from controlling it, exactly? That's not what we want. Naruto roared, angry for once at a meeting. His face red, he said to Kuratsuchi, we just want to keep everyone safe. Trust me. Sasuke and I want peace more than anyone else. We'll protect the peace of our own village ourselves, she snapped. No one asked you to step up and keep the whole world safe. Chojuro raised his hand. When Naruto nodded silently, the Mizukage pushed his glasses up. Ninja work for their own countries. That's only natural. And indeed, it might be ideal for the 5 Kages to join hands together like this. But if we stop fighting, ninja will no longer be ninja. Shikamaru didn't miss the hint of pain bleeding into Chojuro's eyes. The Mizukage was fighting his own true self for the sake of his village. Perhaps it's about time we stop pretending to play nice? Chojuro said. The air in the room froze. Everyone gathered there held their breath, picturing in the backs of their minds a future in which the solidarity of the 5 hidden villages had broken down. Now, while the meeting members were held fast by Chojuro's words, Shikamaru wove a sign and released his chakra. The first to cry out was the one closest to him, Naruto. The entire venue was enveloped in Shikamaru's shadow. The 5 Kages, as well as the people who followed them, were unable to move so much as a finger. Shadow Possession Jutsu. The first time he used it in a conflict in a long time. With the sign still held in front of his chin, Shikamaru glared at the 5 Kages as he began to speak. You've all been yammering on without a thought, but haven't you forgotten the key element here? Stop, Shikamaru, the Hokage said. Ignoring his friend, Shikamaru said to his foolish brethren, it's true that Naruto and Sasuke have the power to destroy a country. But they're not the only ninja in Konoha. Even without them, the difference in strength between Konoha and the other villages is overwhelming. And if the head of Konoha, the Hokage, is willing to lay his life on the line to protect this alliance, then we ninja of Konoha will follow him, even if it means giving up our own lives. We won't allow anyone to disrupt this peace. Got it, Kuratsuchi? Chojuro? Listen good. If you say you're going to leave, then my shadow will crush your heads. His jutsu was perfectly deployed. Kuratsuchi might have had a Kakaginkai, but it would be hard even for her to undo a shadow possession this perfect. If anyone would be able to, it would have been Naruto, who had full control over the power of a tailed beast. Kuratsuchi, Chojuro, do you really intend to go to war with Konoha? Stop this mischief, Shikamaru, Gaara said in an even tone. Out of the corner of his eye, Shikamaru looked into his brother-in-law's eyes beneath his forehead where the character for love was carved. I'm serious. All the more so, in that case. There's no point in killing Kuratsuchi and Chojuro here. You know that better than anyone. There is a point. If word gets out that Shikamaru of Konoha disposed of the Sachikage and the Mizukage, ninja all over the continent will freeze in place. Everyone will know just how serious Konoha is. And if someone comes at us with their sword drawn anyway, we'll take them on when that time comes. Now, how about it, Kuratsuchi, Jojuro? There's one answer here. Yes or no? Tell me now. NGH. A groan slipped out from between Kuratsuchi's gritted pearly teeth. An inky black snake twined itself around the Tsuchikage's pale, slender neck. Her eyes glittered dangerously. Do you understand what you're doing? Chakra gushed from the entire body of the Tsuchikage. Things were getting dicey. Hurry and do it, Naruto. Stop. Naruto shouted, sounding angrier than he had all day. The Hokage's back burned a golden color. Shikamaru turned his head to look at him. The flames of battle burned in Naruto's eyes. The shadow that covered the room turned into black glass and shattered. Stop it. Shikamaru. A fierce blow made contact with his cheek, and Shikamaru fell to the floor. What are you even doing? What is crushing us going to accomplish? Naruto yanked him up by his collar. Shikamaru, motionless, said nothing. He averted his eyes. Naruto tossed him aside before bowing his head so deeply toward the other Kages that he almost scraped it on the ground. Sorry. He's not the kind of guy to do a thing like that. I'll really let him have it later. Forgive him. Kuratsuchi stood up. So this is how Konoha does things. No. Naruto protested. As long as I'm around, I won't let anything upset our peace. Nothing. So please, talk to the daimyo of the land of earth one more time about the land of flowers, Kuratsuchi. I'll give some serious thought to Konoha's secrets. I want to come up with something you can be happy with. We can't have another war ever again. I believe you. But I don't know about the next Hokage. Someday, Konoha is going to be a threat to us, Kuratsuchi said, then left. Chojuro followed her out of the room. When Yugakure moves, we will, too, Darui told Naruto, who still had his head bowed, before he too stepped out of the room. It's not as though the war has started yet, Gaara said, his voice tinged with warmth, and then he also departed with Kankuro. On the way back to Konoha, Naruto was silent. Shikamaru also said nothing as he hurried, indifferent, along the road home. When they were almost at the An main gates, Naruto said, back still turned, why would you do a thing like that? Shikamaru gave him the answer he had prepared. I knew you would never allow it. You would definitely break my jutsu, and so win everyone over. Naruto stopped and turned around. It was your plan all along, now they've all accepted the threat of Konoha as a reality. We needed to make them understand. The gambit wouldn't have worked without both the might of Konoha and your passion as Hokage. It's just like Gaara said, the war hasn't started yet. We can't make any mistakes in this game, and it's far from over. His friend nodded, a wry smile rising up on his face, and Shikamaru smiled in return before setting out again toward the village where his family was waiting. For a few days after the meeting, Shikamaru's workload doubled. Then the onslaught suddenly evaporated. One day, he was working until late into the night, and the next he was free by evening. Normally, he would use his free time to train in the deserted mountains or go home and relax, but today, his feet naturally turned toward the town. His destination was obvious. And he had no need of a map. He'd been to this particular place many, many times. When he turned onto the road leading to the shop at the end of his journey, he spotted his old comrade watering the flowers. The countless bouquets in cylindrical silver containers could not be contained by the store itself, and they spilled out to line the street outside. The woman giving careful attention to each and every one of them was a florist through and through, but she had been a capable ninja once, and had come through any number of bloody battles with Shikamaru. Even now, she went on missions from time to time, flower in one hand, sword in the other. Well, the woman said, and stopped her watering. Been a while, huh, you know? Shikamaru called out. Yamanaka Ino had fought with Shikamaru during the Great War as part of the Ino Shikacho trio. Among the young ninja who hadn't experienced the war, the trio of Shikamaru's generation was still a topic of conversation even now. Individually, their skills were a step behind the likes of Naruto and Sasuke, but as a three-person cell, a fundamental ninja formation, Ino Shikacho were lionized as a head above the other ninja of the village. Some of the books written after the war even offered analyses of the trio's fighting techniques. Ino had gotten married and carried out her duties as a ninja while tending to her family's flower shop. Her son Inogen, also a ninja, belonged to the same team as Shikadai. Shikamaru thought it was very like her to give everything she had to both her household and her work, always pushing forward undaunted. He slowly walked over to stand in front of the shop. "What's up?" Ino asked, still holding her hose. "Pretty unusual for you to come all the way to the store." "Oh, the thing is," Shikamaru looked up and away as he scratched the back of his head. Ino peered at him, a mischievous smile on her face. "So you're trying to make up for your anniversary then?" Shikamaru was dumbstruck, and Ino laughed out loud. "I didn't use my jutsu or anything, you know." Ino could use her mind transfer jutsu to enter the mind of another person. "She told you?" Shikamaru asked, the corners of his mouth turning up, and Ino nodded. Because their sons were on the same team, Temari and Ino were known to chat with each other. They were both taking care of their families too, so they shared things in common. "You went and forgot your anniversary." She sighed and shook her head. "You're the worst, you know? Does Sai get that kind of stuff right?" Ino's husband Sai used to be Naruto's comrade. He was not very good at openly expressing emotion, but he was a skilled ninja who trained with the Umbu since he was very small. He's a serious guy. He always makes sure to do something, for my birthday, our son's, Christmas. And of course, our wedding anniversary. If he's out of the village on a mission, he asks a colleague to give us presents. Faced with this, Shikamaru couldn't very well argue his own case. "One little mistake and this is what I have to deal with?" The words would drag spun round and round in his mind. "So you came to buy some flowers then?" He had known Ino since childhood. And for generations, the Naras and Yamanakas had held each other in mutual respect as families that formed the Ino Shikacho trio. He might have been the Hokage's advisor now, but to Ino he was still the same old Shikamaru who thought everything was a huge hassle. All he could do was nod obediently. "In that case, you want this." Ino pulled out a single yellow flower from a silver canister standing against the wall of the shop. There were no leaves on the long, slender green stalk. Yellow petals spread out in all directions. "It's a flower from Uegakure," she told him. "Perfect for Temari, right?" The yellow flower blooming at the top of the perfectly straight stalk did indeed make him think of Temari. This was actually the flower that Shikamaru had come to buy. If he were going to give Temari flowers, he figured it had to be these. "Guess so," he agreed amicably, and Ino nodded, satisfied. "You are, of course, going to make a bouquet, right?" "Give me all the ones there." "No, everything you've got," he said. "Oh." Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice from the street. Turning to look, he found a figure so enormous it blocked the road. "Choji," Ino greeted him, still holding the yellow flower. Akimichi Choji, the third member of Ino Shikacho. A girl with a similar physique was standing next to him. Unlike the easygoing Choji, her lips were pinched shut, and she wore a complicated expression. Her skin was tan, a popular look with young girls. This was Choji's daughter, Cho-Cho. She was also on Shikadai's team. The Ino Shikacho trio now belonged their children's generation. "What's up?" Shikamaru asked. "You buying a flower for your daughter?" "I prefer dumplings to flowers," Cho-Cho said before Choji could respond. Choji smiled at her. "I have today off, so I figured we'd all go to Q, the whole family." "Yakiniku Q." Choji was a regular at the Yakiniku grilled meat restaurant. Back when the three of them had been on the same team, they'd hung out at the restaurant too many times to count. This was the place they went to celebrate after the end of a mission when their instructor Sarutobi Asuma was still alive. Asuma's treat, naturally. The restaurant was permanently burned into the back of his mind. "Cho-cho," Shikamaru said. She raised her thin eyebrows slightly and cocked her head to one side. "Sorry about Shikadai." "Why?" she asked. "Oh, he turned down that mission, right?" Shikamaru said. "Just when you finally get an S-rank mission." "Sorry about that." "Whatever," Cho-cho replied coolly. That was all he got from her. She kept things simple. Shikamaru wondered if all the kids were like this these days. "It's been a while since we've seen each other, so Daddy's gonna talk to these two for a minute," Choji said to Cho-cho. "You go ahead. I think Mom's already there." "Got it." Cho-cho trotted off without looking at her father. "She looks more and more like you every day, huh?" Ino said to Choji as she watched her go. "You think?" Choji rubbed his large belly happily. Smiling wryly, Shikamaru lowered his face. "I have to apologize to you guys, too." "What for?" "About what?" "Your kids had some trouble because of Shikadai." "Sorry," Shikamaru replied, still staring at his feet. A child's misconduct was the parent's responsibility, but his blame ran deeper than that. If Shikamaru hadn't held the position he did, Shikadai would never have been put in that situation in the first place. He was responsible for this not just as a parent, but as a ninja. Both Choji and Ino burst out laughing. He hadn't been expecting this reaction. He lifted his face to find them smiling at him. "Just when I was wondering what you were going to come out with, it's that," Ino said, placing the hand gripping the hose on her hip. "Shikadai is not the first member of the Nara family who hates a hassle," Choji noted. "We can just look straight to you if we're wondering about the source." "That's why I'm apologizing," they laughed again loudly, as if rejecting Shikamaru's words. "Shikadai for sure has his own way of thinking about all that," Choji said. His high-pitched voice didn't go with his fat body. "He's not the sort of kid who dumps something just because it's a drag. The fact that you're apologizing to us is proof of that. Or am I wrong? Don't you have something more important to do than apologize to us?" Ino asked. Shikamaru raised a questioning eyebrow. The kind-hearted mother sighed. "Did you actually talk with Shikadai?" "No, you're a genius at work, but when it comes to family, you're a total disaster," she told him. He couldn't say a word to that. "There's the thing with Temari, too," she continued. "You gotta really see your family. They're the ones supporting you behind the scenes so you can go out and do your job. A guy who can't take care of the people closest to him isn't going to be able to keep the village safe now, is he?" Ino was right. He knew it. He thought about it. What he didn't know was how to communicate his thoughts and what he was feeling. Any closer a person was to him, the harder it was for him to open up to them in a real way. It was utterly pathetic. "The two of you have opened my eyes. Thanks. How could a man who can't face his family protect the village? Or avoid a war? I have to get even stronger. Let's have dinner sometime soon." He turned his back to them and started walking. Ino was shouting something, but in his head, he was too busy interrogating himself to hear her. "Oh." Once he was pretty far from the store, Shikamaru remembered at last and came to a stop. "I forgot the flowers." He really was the worst. He continued to spend his days cramming into his head the contents of the papers he approved while thinking about the matter with the Land of Earth. Both tasks were important, and neither had room for errors. He no longer heard the voices of his staff when he fell into this meditative state of concentration. Over the last few days, it had become a matter of course that he only noticed a person after they had called his name loudly several times. At the last meeting of the 5 Kages, he had seeded the threat of Konoha in the minds of the other Kages, which was good, but now he was at a dead end. He told Naruto that they had to take the initiative, but he still had no concrete plan. Currently, his only option was to sit like a passive observer and watch for Yuagakure's next move. He heard from Ro and Soku on a regular basis. Apparently, Yuagakure had begun to accept fewer missions. Shikamaru assumed they most likely intended to keep as many ninja as possible on standby in the village so that they'd be ready to mobilize whenever the order came in from the land of Earth. He couldn't simply sit back and wait for the day of destruction. He could see a way forward, but the details were hazy. This nut wouldn't crack if they only had ninja talking to each other. At the end of the day, the ninja bowed to the plans of the daimyo of the 5 great nations. Shikamaru could foresee a situation like the one developing because a daimyo's greed would disrupt the delicate balance of power. He needed a radical plan to break this stalemate. For ninja, battle may be their core nature, but he sought coexistence among them, a peaceful world without fighting. Perhaps it wouldn't be such a bad thing for the ninja to disappear as the world moved toward peace. Some might have laughed this away as an immature fantasy, but Shikamaru was looking for eternal peace. A tragedy like the last Great War must never be allowed to happen ever again. If there was no more war, then there would be no more need for the ninja. But the ninja jutsu and chakra systems were beneficial to society at large. If non-ninja could wield them effectively, then they would be even more useful. But that transfer of knowledge could only ever begin once there was an unshakable peace. If ninja techniques were used for evil, their power could destroy the world, something that had been made amply clear to all in the last Great War. Which was exactly why ninja techniques should only be shared when people had abandoned the path of hatred. The road to achieving this ideal world was still very rocky, but Shikamaru would never give up. He believed the day would come. Otherwise, there would have been no meaning in sacrificing time with his family to his work like this. "Are you?" From far off in the distance, someone was calling him. A woman. The thought passed through his mind as his hand calmly pressed his stamp down. Kamaru. Too loud. Shikamaru. An angry roar was loud enough to scatter his thoughts. He jerked his head up to find a familiar face before him. Leaning forward, hand deftly placed between 2 mountains of paper, was the daughter of his former master. "What? Mirai? Don't what me? Do you know how long I've been calling your name?" Scowling at Shikamaru's stunned response, Sarutobi Mirai, child of Sarutobi Asuma, took her hand off the desk and put it on her hip. "You should really do something about that habit of not noticing what's going on around you." "I'm thinking about serious business here," he told her. "I don't have time for trivialities." "And what are you planning to do if someone comes along with their own serious business?" "They'll just yell at me like you did." True, he could tell by looking at her tense face that Mirai had brought some new trouble for him. Long, long ago, this girl would lisp Shika, and would throw herself into his arms whenever she saw. She was the only girl he'd raised as master and teacher. He made sure he kept his promise to his own master in heaven to protect Mirai. Even with the endless work he was doing to assist Naruto, he found the time to teach Mirai the fundamentals of ninjutsu once she started at the academy. Her father, Asuma, was the son of the 3rd Hokage, so Mirai had the blood of a Hokage running through her veins. Her innate ninja abilities were so great that he sometimes thought it presumptuous to say he had taught her anything. After showing her something once, she picked it up immediately. By their next meeting, she would have thoroughly mastered the technique. He often thought that she didn't really need him. But Mirai continued to call Shikamaru master and adored him to this day. While it flattered him when she would tell him without hesitation that he turned her into a real ninja, it was also embarrassing. He laid his square seal down on the desk, settled back in his chair, and asked his loyal student, "So what fresh annoyance are you bringing to me today?" "You know what's happening in this village in 3 days, right?" she asked. "Don't answer a question with a question," he said, a smile spreading across his face, and then answered her. "The daimyo of the Land of Fire is coming to the village to meet with Naruto." It was a good opportunity. They weren't going to get any further if they kept this conversation to the ninja alone. A meeting of the daimyo would open up a new front on the game and put a direct stop to the daimyo of the Land of Earth. This was Shikamaru's secret strategy to break open this stalemate he faced. In his wildest dreams, he couldn't have planned for a better opportunity for Madoka Ikkyu, Land of Fire's daimyo, to visit Konohagakure. Through Naruto, he would get Ikkyu to convene a meeting of the 5 great nations. If they could make such a summit happen, the likes of which had only been done a handful of times in the long history of the continent, the game would advance to a new level. They had to persuade Ikkyu to call together the other daimyo, whatever it took. Did something happen with that? Shikamaru asked. There's no issue with the meeting itself, Mirai replied. But Lord Ikkyu will be accompanied by his son Lord Tento. You're not here to tell me what a chore babysitting is, are you? He did not need her bringing every little thing like this to him. I wish that it were as simple as that. Her face clouded over. What's the matter? Apparently, Mujina have their sights set on Lord Tento, she told him. Mujina was a group of bandits. Their boss, Jojoji, a ninja who used a jutsu called Corpse Doppelganger, was classified as one of the bigger targets in the bingo book. So then the report of Mujina showing up in the village would be in this mountain somewhere. Shikamaru dug through the reams of paper on his desk and neatly pulled a single sheet out from near the bottom of a precarious pile. Got it. Right. Boruto's team was given the mission of arresting them, right? Yes. Mirai nodded. You still don't look happy. Most likely, causing a commotion in the village is just the tip of the iceberg for Mujina. They're really after Lord Tento. So they want us to take the bait and drop Mujina from our line of investigation? I doubt Shojoji would even show himself to Boruto's team, she agreed. Mujina abducts Tento. Force the enemy to take a pawn and then take the king. Maybe we can use Mujina. Watch Tento while he's in the village, Shikamaru instructed. Don't take your eyes off him for even a second. When Mujina starts to move, let the abduction happen. What? Mirai cried. Just hear me out. A hazy bloodlust shone in his eyes. We let them abduct him, and then we quickly move in to rescue him. Okay? Listen closely. You have to let him be abducted. Why would we? She had brought this to him to prevent it from happening. Shikamaru gave her this order in full awareness of that fact. We're going to make Madoka Ikkyu owe one. Mirai was at a loss for words. Regardless, Shikamaru continued. You're up against Shojoji here. Don't let your guard down. Wipe them after they abduct Tento and take him back to their hideout. You have to rescue Tento unharmed. And, he took a deep breath. Don't tell Naruto. What? If Naruto knows anything about this, he'll set a guard for Tento and prevent the abduction. Then it will all be meaningless. Tento gets abducted, and the ninja of Konoha save him. We need this to happen. What exactly are you thinking, Shikamaru? She raised a curious eyebrow at him. Trust me, Mirai. This isn't just for the sake of this village. The future of the world's at stake. He was trying to prevent a war. He couldn't bother with appearances. He'd been ready to stain his hands with darkness from the moment he decided to be Naruto's advisor. He by himself was more than enough to handle the dirty work. I'll leave the team makeup up to you. At any rate, don't take your eyes off of Tento. Got it? Yes. Mirai left the room, looking troubled. 3 days later, Madoka Ikkyu and his son Tento arrived in the village of Konohagakure. At the same time, a report arrived from Boruto's team that 3 members of the Mujina bandits had been secured. Shikamaru was in the Hokage's office when Mirai brought word of the success of Boruto's mission to the Hokage. Boruto and his team, huh? Nice work. Naruto put his hands on his desk and pushed himself up to his feet in delight. Looks like they can get the job done. Shikamaru took a cigarette out of his pocket and put it in his mouth. Mirai, you got a light? Mirai stared at him dumbfounded before answering coolly. There's no smoking in here, Shikamaru. I know. He stared into her eyes. There was a flicker of resolve in the double rings of her irises. I am carrying out the mission you entrusted me with. Nodding slightly, he said, anyway, you said 3 members, yeah? Shojoji was a no-show? Corpse doppelganger Shojoji? Naruto muttered, glaring into empty space. Yeah, Shikamaru said. A big target in the bingo book. He copies the look and voice and even the memories of a person he kills and transforms into them. We gotta do something about him fast. His friend's voice was stern, and Shikamaru felt reassured that he'd make the right choice in keeping this mission quiet. If Naruto knew about the Tento abduction, he'd prevent the incident before it happened. He needed to stop Naruto from looking too closely at Majina, though. Well, leave Majina to me, Shikamaru said. You should focus on today's big meeting. Naruto's attention was diverted from further thought of Majina when the meeting was mentioned. And Shikamaru was consumed with guilt for distracting Naruto from his concealed plan. And then something surprising happened. After Tento was taken hostage by Majina, he was rescued by Boruto and his team. Boruto had been assigned to watch out for Tento while he was in the village, and the 2 boys ended up becoming close. They opened up to each other in a real way and promised to be friends. Mirai reported all this in detail. Once he learned that Tento had been abducted, as if the kidnappers had simply been waiting for the moment when his bodyguard duties ended, Boruto snuck into the Majina hideout alone. Halfway through the fight, his team members arrived to help, and together, they got Tento safely back home. On top of that, they managed to capture the Majina leader, Shojoji. The squad Mirai put together hadn't had to lift a finger. You don't know what would have happened if it hadn't been Boruto who came along. You did good. Anyway, it's not quite how I planned it, but the fact remains that Konoha Ninja saved Tento. I'm sorry. Mirai bowed her head. You've got nothing to be sorry for. This works just as well. Don't worry about it. Okay. She paused. Shikamaru? What? An unlit cigarette hung from his lips. What are you trying to accomplish here? He spun around on his chair. And then when he turned to face Mirai once again, the sparkle that lit up his eyes when he was on the front lines had come to life once more. I am going to set up a game we can't lose. Talk to Ikkyu one more time, Shikamaru said to Naruto, who was sitting in the Hokage's chair. What's this about? I just talked to him, didn't I? His blue eyes wide open, Naruto had a strange look on his face. He sighed as he leaned forward and put his elbows on the desk. You've been weird lately. You can think I'm as weird as you want. Just get in touch with Ikkyu right away. And what exactly am I supposed to talk to him about? About the land of Earth. Shikamaru glared at him, a fight in his eyes. Naruto took this in calmly. We talked that out at the meeting the other day, he said slowly. I got a firm promise from Lord Ikkyu that he would start working on the land of Earth. There's no need to go to the land of fire and meet with him again. The situation's different now, Shikamaru insisted. You mean because of the abduction? His blonde eyebrows raised, and the Hokage's previously kind eyes took on a hard edge. Shikamaru, you knew Lord Tento would be abducted, didn't you? You deliberately let Shojoji and them flop around so they would take Lord Tento and then you could save him. It was in the past now. It would have been a hassle if Naruto had known beforehand, but him knowing now couldn't change anything. Shikamaru nodded calmly. I was the one who gave the order to say nothing to you. So you could make Lord Ikkyu O's one, I guess? As Hokage, Naruto had also learned to consider tactics of manipulation like this. But he never wanted to resort to these darker methods for leverage. That was fine. Shikamaru didn't want him to either. Naruto had to remain the light. He would take on the shadows himself. Giving a deliberate snort of laughter, Shikamaru shrugged. If you understand that, then you can figure out the point of meeting again yourself. That's not what I'm talking about, Naruto protested. I'm saying you've been weird lately. Using your shadow possession to threaten the 5 Kages, overseeing the abduction of Lord Tento. I didn't oversee it, he replied. I was monitoring it very closely. Even if Boruto's team hadn't rescued him, Tento would have been returned to Ikkyu without a scratch. And what did you plan to do if the worst happened and Lord Tento was killed? The Hokage snapped. Were you going to take responsibility for that? I can't just let this go. I mean, using a child as a hostage for negotiation? I've always known that you hate this sort of thing. That's why I did it, isn't it? Shikamaru. Naruto stood up, walked around his desk, and grabbed his friend by the collar. You always keep every little thing to yourself. You have to trust me more. Shikamaru didn't flinch at the sudden rough handling. It's precisely because you're the Hokage that I can do this sort of thing. I was able to do what I needed to do at the meeting of the 5 Kages and with Tento because I have faith in you. So what's so important that you get Lord Ikkyu in our debt? A meeting of the daimyo of the 5 great nations. You, Naruto released Shikamaru's collar. We're not going to get anywhere at this point with ninja talking to ninja, he said coolly, rubbing his neck. We're at a standstill now unless the daimyo get together and talk this out. Sighing, Naruto closed his eyes and shook his head. I'm racking my brains here, too, okay? Even I know that we won't get anywhere like this. We can't have war ever again. But I can't see a way forward, however much we might want to make a move here. I thought about going to Uegakure and talking with Kuratsuchi one-on-one, but I don't know if that'd do anything to improve the situation. That's not like you. Naruto looked at Shikamaru with wide eyes. Think you didn't do it, he said to his sworn friend of so many years, smiling faintly. That used to be who you were. If you had time to worry, you'd rather get moving. You've always forged your path forward like that. I guess so, Naruto said sadly, staring at his open hands. When you grow up, though, you have so much more responsibility. A whole lot of hassle. It weighs you down. Believe it. Responsibility hangs so heavy on your neck, you can't take a single step. And then you just get stuck in this thought loop, like maybe you should have done it the other way. Or like, no, this is the right way. It just never stops. Naruto wasn't usually one to complain. As Hokage, he stood up front to lead the village of Konohagakure with an unflaggingly positive attitude. But he struggled. He worried and got weighed down. The burden he bore was greater than anyone in the village. He was responsible for so much, he couldn't exactly go running off however he pleased. Naruto only spoke of these anxieties to Shikamaru, and then only occasionally. Shikamaru was the only one who knew this vulnerable side of Naruto. You want to go up to the roof for a sec? Smoke? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Shikamaru grinned and nodded. Fine. If you have to. Naruto followed him out of the office. When they came out onto the roof, Shikamaru pulled out a cigarette and lit it. He let the smoke roll into his lungs before gently exhaling. The wispy trails of gray melted into the dazzling blue sky. As he looked up at the clouds drifting from west to east, Shikamaru turned to his close friend. Growing up, having a family, it's all a huge struggle. Sometimes, I want to just throw it all away and be by myself. I've never been happier than I am now, Naruto replied. You only say role model stuff now. Shikamaru sighed. You used to be more honest with yourself, you know. Maybe. They laughed, and then Shikamaru took a drag on the cigarette, which was now half ash. For all that I'm way down now, thinking about all these exhausting and annoying hassles, I'm way better at strategizing than I used to be. I think of new tactics and plans that would never have occurred to me before. It's not like I get scared and freeze up. I've lived more lives, so now I can see and play the best moves. When you talk so confidently, I can almost believe you're right about anything, Naruto remarked. At the very least, I think I'm right. He crushed the cigarette and dropped it into the circular ashtray. Even after he was done smoking, however, neither man moved to leave the roof. Hey, Naruto, he said. I'm absolutely not giving up. We have to avoid a war above all else. I'm right here with you on that. The Hokage nodded. It's a delicate road, like walking across thin ice. We can't worry about how things look. And some of this stuff is bound to mess us up. You might have to play a couple cards you hate. Even so, you have to trust me. I'm not giving up on peace, right up until the bitter end. I don't want Boruto and Shikamaru to have to go through the stuff of Asuma and Neji's time. Got it. Shikamaru felt a warm hand on his back. I trust you. You turned out to be a real Hokage, Shikamaru said and put another cigarette in his mouth. He quickly lit it and exhaled smoke. You're smoking more. Naruto pursed his lips as he waved the smoke away from his face. Pretending not to notice, Shikamaru replied with a grin, it's a celebration cigarette for getting that hassle crossed off the list, you know? Wait, whoa! Naruto waved his hands in protest. You actually put more hassles on that list, though. So this is just 'cause we got more hassles then. That's not even an excuse. Guess not. Smiling, he finished the second cigarette. And then he started a counterattack. Here you are giving me flack for smoking, but aren't you going for ramen a lot more than before you got married? HNGH, you're using late night work as an excuse to go to Ichiraku, like, every day. You gotta face facts, friend. We're both getting to the age where you get a belly. And a fat Hokage, that's not a great look. I am still training, Naruto protested. Believe it. I make sure to burn off what I eat in ramen, so it's all good. Really? Probably, you're hopeless. Shikamaru laughed. In his hand, a third cigarette. I just told you you're smoking too much. Shut up. This from the gluttonous Lord Seventh. You're the one who needs to shut up. I'm just telling it like it is. They laughed briefly before settling down again. They looked down on the village of Konohagakure spread out beneath them. I'll go to the Land of Fire's daimyo, Naruto said, finally. You'll come too, yeah? Of course. A summit for the daimyo of the 5 great nations. Gotta make it happen. Really leverage that debt he owes us for saving Tento, Shikamaru told him. If it's hard for you to say, I can do it. I know you're ready for that. I'll try a bit harder, too. I'm counting on you, Lord Hokage. When you call me Lord, it feels patronizing. It's all in your head. Just your imagination running wild. He patted Naruto on the back twice, tossed his cigarette in the ashtray, and turned around. About time to get to work. We're not done talking here. The voice of the Hokage at his back sounded innocent in a way that reminded him of when they were kids. Shikamaru's face tightened sternly in preparation for their next battle. So what exactly are you trying to do here? After a late arrival, Madoka Ikkyu, daimyo of the Land of Fire, sat down across the table from Naruto on the leather sofa. A few days earlier, Ikkyu had come to the village of Konohagakure for a meeting with Naruto. Now this was their second meeting in less than 10 days. But this time, Naruto and Shikamaru had gone to the Land of Fire in secret and were meeting in an unofficial capacity. Ikkyu's residence had been chosen as the venue. Given the large number of people who came and went on a daily basis from the daimyo's residence, no one would notice them as long as they were disguised. Ikkyu had proposed this plan after giving careful consideration to the specific needs of this meeting. So Naruto and Shikamaru had slipped into the residence alongside some people carrying meat into the kitchen. Now they sat beside each other facing Ikkyu. Ikkyu stared at Naruto and began to speak. You said by any means possible. So I assume it's quite serious? Yes. Naruto nodded, his face grim. Before we get to that, I have to say a word of thanks. Ikkyu held up a hand. I'm truly grateful your son saved Tento. That group of bandits Mujina are famously fiendish. I don't know what they would have done to my son if the situation had dragged on. When I think about that, I can't thank your son enough. Honestly, thank you. Ikkyu bowed his head of swept-up hair deeply. Just stop that, Naruto said. You don't need to thank us. If there's something I can do, just name it. I'll help you insofar as I can. These words were the reason Shikamaru had done what he had. Here's where we strike the first blow. As if reading Shikamaru's mind, Naruto put his hands on his knees and leaned far forward as he started speaking to Ikkyu. It's about the matter with the Land of Earth I reported to you the other day. I also think this situation is alarming. I'll get in touch with the Land of Earth right away and try to dig up the truth. That'll be too late. Naruto gave voice to Shikamaru's thought. His plan rejected, Ikkyu arched an eyebrow slightly, but the young Hokage paid no mind. According to intel that came into Konoha after our meeting, the ninja of Kumagakure are starting to gather in the village in preparation for the attack on the Land of Flowers. When the Land of Earth invades, Kumagakure will head out immediately. If that happens, then 2 of the 5 great nations will end up at war. 3 if you count Kirigakure, which has joined up with Uegakure. Konoha will be dragged into conflict again. I understand that we're facing a crisis here, the daimyo agreed. Which is why I said I would get in touch with the Land of Earth, isn't it? We send a group of observers, and the Land of Earth won't make any careless moves while they're there. We can buy some time, get proof that they do intend to invade the Land of Flowers, and then censure them for an illegal attack. If the Land of Earth forces the attack, a group of observers won't make one bit of difference, Shikamaru interjected. Ikkyu shot him a dissatisfied look, but Shikamaru continued nonetheless. The Land of Earth is well aware this is an illegal attack. That's why they forced the Tsuchi Kage to make a demand at the meeting of the 5 Kages that would cause a rupture in the Kage's relationship. It's precisely because they know the attack is unjustifiable that they're afraid everyone around them is an enemy. They've likely been laying the groundwork for a while without us realizing it. It's best to assume that they got to work on winning over Kirigakure in the fairly early stages. The situation is already nearing its endgame. We can have the little bit of theater by sending a group of observers, and they'll be treated quite nicely before being sent back, that's about it. During that time, though, the Land of Earth will still be hard at work preparing for their war. It's more than possible that the Land of Earth and Uegakure will make their move while your observers are still on the road home. Shikamaru, was it? Ikkyu asked, scowling. Shikamaru answered with a nod. He didn't have time to make nice with the daimyo. Haste makes waste, as they say. If we aim to the Land of Earth by pushing too hard, we lose everything, don't we? I think the most crucial thing is to see how far we can get through peaceable negotiations. We passed that point a long time ago. Shikamaru, Naruto's calm voice checked him as he was on the verge of indignation. After taking a deep breath through his nose, Shikamaru continued, maintaining his calm. The way things are now, the war will start before 10 days are out. Unless we make a more direct move than attempting to curb them with a group of observers, we can't break out of this deadlock. You say a direct move. I assume you have a strategy then? Ikkyu asked. The Land of Fire boasts the greatest national power of the 5 great nations, Shikamaru replied coolly. We'd like you to draw attention to that power on all fronts and demand a meeting of the daimyo of the 5 great nations. A meeting of the daimyo of the 5 great nations, Ikkyu was at a loss for words. Shikamaru pressed on. Until now, the daimyo of the 5 great nations have only come together to meet a handful of times in the long history of the continent. The last meeting was in the time of my great-grandfather. But that also means that it's not without precedent. You've had meetings via screens before, too. If the Land of Fire's daimyo sets it in motion, the Land of Earth will have no choice but to go along with it. So that includes a threat then? Of course. Shikamaru nodded. Ikkyu gulped audibly. Are you saying the Land of Fire should make an enemy of the Land of Earth? At best, you have to make it look like that. If they refuse this meeting, who knows where will things go? I'd like you to make your threat clear to the Land of Earth to force them into the meeting venue. I'm asking you this, too. We have to do something to stop the war. Naruto grabbed Shikamaru's shoulder. This guy's been desperately racking his brains, focused exclusively on that. A meeting of the daimyo of the 5 great nations is for the sake of peace. Shikamaru's always 10 steps ahead. He's thinking ahead to what happens after the end of the meeting. I'd appreciate it you'd accept his request. He bowed his head to the daimyo for Shikamaru's sake. Here Naruto was saving him when Shikamaru was the one who had vowed to support the Hokage. His heart grew hot. The academy dropout and the kid who couldn't be bothered had become such ninja that they were facing the daimyo of the Land of Fire for the sake of peace in all nations. Thanks. But this feeling of gratitude wasn't just for Naruto. It naturally rose up in him toward his master, his comrades, all the people of the village, and the fact that he was living here and now. If you can bring the daimyo of the Land of Earth to the table, you can censure him directly, Shikamaru said. Of course, the Land of Lightning won't sit by quietly either. If the 5 daimyo open up and talk honestly, seeking peace, we will absolutely be able to avoid this war. To that end, we ask you to lend us your strength, Lord Ikkyu. He got off of the sofa onto his knees, pressed his hands to the floor, and bowed his head. He bowed his cheap head for however long it took. It was an easy ask if it meant they wouldn't lose this chance. He couldn't let the road to peace be cut off. No matter how narrow and dangerous, he would forge ahead no matter what. Stop with the ugly scene. Does this scene look ugly? Shikamaru wondered. Is the sight of me fighting that awful? That's fine. There's no need for you to understand me. But I won't move until you agree, Shikamaru told him. You said so yourself, Lord Ikkyu, that you would do anything you could. If you do feel the slightest bit indebted to Konoha, please pay it back to us now. I'm asking you. No matter what else happens, we have to make this meeting happen. Somehow. It would have been easy to ensnare him and force him to agree. If he wanted to make the daimyo do as he asked, he could use an ocular ninjutsu. But if he took control of Ikkyu, the seams would show at the meeting. And the group of daimyo wouldn't be moved by empty words. Ikkyu himself had to consent from his heart or else there was no point. Which was why Shikamaru was facing off with Ikkyu like this from the bottom of his own heart and soul. It was a method for which he was ill-suited. But it was the only way. Please. Naruto also got down on his hands and knees next to him. Whoa, now the Lord Hokage, Ikkyu was clearly flustered. I've never seen this guy do this before, Naruto said. Believe it. He always handles things with a clever quip and a cool face. And now he's here with his head pressed against the floor, not caring how it looks. Please, we need the 5 daimyo to meet. I want you to move the daimyo of the Land of Earth. Well, you've really got me here. Ikkyu sank deep into the sofa and shrugged. I suppose this means that I've got to steel myself to jump on this ship with you then. If a war starts, there won't be anything to steel yourself about, Naruto noted. I suppose. It might be just as you two are saying. If war starts tomorrow, things will get very serious very quickly before I can get a handle on the situation. And it will be too late for regrets when that time comes, HM? Yes, Shikamaru answered. Ikkyu laughed over him. I owe a debt to your son Boruto that I can never repay. But if it means I can pay even the smallest part of that debt, I should help you, shouldn't I? No, Ikkyu stood up and came around the long heavy table before crouching down between the two men with their heads pressed to the floor. I've pushed the Hokage and his capable counselor to this. Let's stop with tepid words like help. Let me fight together with you. A surprisingly soft and very warm hand touched Shikamaru's back. Let me fight together with you. It was a response beyond his wildest dreams. End of Chapter 2. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.